Okay, Latanya is decorating her living room and draws a floor plan to help look at placement. Okay? Latanya wants to hang a picture at the center of the back wall. How do you find a point at the center of A and B? How do you find the center of A and B? Kira? Exactly. That's what I would do. Count the distance from A to B. So, well, you can see this is at 1 and this is at 10. So the distance between them would be 11. So it would be 11 is the distance divided by 2 is halfway, which is 5.5. So the picture should go at 5.5 away from 1. So actually at 6.5 right there. Okay, that's good. Latanya wants to place a lamp halfway between chairs C and D. Where's the point where the lamp would go if it's halfway in between C and D? Okay, now, it's not on a straight line. They're at an angle with each other. So how do you find how far to go? Well, how far to the right do we go before we start going down to D? How many squares do we go? 2 to the right. And then how far down do I go to get to D? 4. So we have to take what Kira said on the first one, because she said take the distance and divide by 2. So if you went 2 to the right and 4 down, if you're going halfway between, you're going to divide by 2. So if we divide them each by 2, you're going 1 to the right and 2 down. If you go 1 to the right and 2 down, 1 to the right and 2 down, you should be right here, and that's where the lamp should go. 1 to the right and 2 down. Okay, so we're going to actually get better procedures for doing this. So we're going to do what's called the midpoint formula. And the midpoint of a segment is the point that divides a segment into 2 congruent segments. The point that divides a segment into 2 congruent segments. Abby, do you have a vocab sheet?
Yeah, when I missed days, I thought that.
Okay. No, okay, that's fine. That's fine. We're good. So it's the point that divides a segment into 2 congruent segments. Now, this formula is an important formula. This is the midpoint formula. I will put it on the board for you, but you will need to know it to do quite a few of your homework problems today. So the midpoint formula. You take your first point plus your second point, add them up, and then divide by 2. Then you take your second point, so the y value of your first point plus the y value of your second point, and divide by 2. Okay? That's how we're going to use the midpoint formula. So, if we want to find the midpoint of -4, -1, and 2, 1, we take the x value of p, -4, and the x value of q, 2, divided by 2. We take the y value, -1, plus the y value of your other point, 1, and divided by 2. Okay? So if you do the math, -4 plus 2 is -2, divided by 2. -1 plus 1 is 0, divided by 2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. 0 divided by 2 is 0. -1, 0. That's the midpoint. Okay? So that's using the midpoint formula. Okay. So we're going to find the midpoint of A and B. So A is at -3, 2, B is at 4, -2. So find the midpoint. We take the x value of A. What's your x value of A? -3. And then the x value of B? 4. We're going to divide that by 2. And then we're going to put comma because it's an ordered pair. So it's one number, comma, the next number. Then you're going to take the y value, 2, plus the other y value, -2, and divide it by 2. So doing the addition, -3 plus 4 is 1 divided by 2. 2 plus -2 is 0 divided by 2. So it's going to be 1/2, 0. So 1/2, 0 is right there. That looks right in the middle. So let's find the midpoint of JL. Well, I got to know where J and L are. Where does it look like where J is? At what? What's the ordered pair for J? It's -3, -2 actually. And then L is going to be +2, -3. Then we throw in the midpoint formula. So we go -3 plus 2 divided by 2, and -2 plus -3 divided by 2. -3 plus 2 is -1 divided by 2. -2 plus a -3 is -5 divided by 2. -5 halves is the same as -2.5. So it's -1/2, -2.5. About right there. That makes sense. Okay. What's the coordinates of the points 3/5 of the way from A to B? Okay. This is a little different. Okay. It's not the midpoint formula. So finding 3/5 of the way. Okay. All right. So if my endpoints are -3, 3, -4, and 13, 11. If I want to find 3/5 of the way, okay, I find the length from A to B, so the x values, and I want to go 3/5 of that. So what you have to do is take 13 minus 3, which is 10, and then take 10 times 3/5, which is what's 3/5 of 10? 3 times 10 is 30. What's 30 divided by 5? 6. So we have to go 6 away from 3. So then you have to take 3 plus 6 equals 9. And that's just the x value. Now we have to do the same things for the y value. So going from -4 to 11, you take 11 minus -4, which is 15. Because minus a negative is plus a positive. Take 15 times 3/5. Well, 15 times 3 is 45. What's 45 divided by 5? 9. So that equals 9. So then we take -4 plus 9, and you get 5. That's the y value. So the coordinate is 9, 5. I will not make you do that on a quiz or a test. Okay? They did have those on the quizzes and the tests. I just don't like those. Now finding midpoint, yeah, you need to know how to do midpoint. But finding a point 3/5 of the way, yeah, I might give you a homework problem on that so you work through it once. But yeah, I don't expect you to have to work through that all the time. Okay, the distance formula. Now the distance formula is basically the Pythagorean theorem. Have you ever seen the Pythagorean theorem before? C squared equals a squared plus b squared. We'll use that a lot in this class. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. So if this is a, and this is b, and this is c, basically, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the distance formula, do I have it written down? No. The distance formula is this. It is the square root of a squared, so it's x2 minus x1 squared, plus b squared, which is y2 minus y1 squared. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So if we want to get c alone, you take the square root of both sides. Okay, so this is the distance formula. So d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared, y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, that you'll want in your notebook or somewhere easy to find because you'll use that as well. Okay, you can take off. Okay. So let me jump out to here. So if we look at the distance formula here, I'm going to take easier numbers than this. I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to drag this one. Oh, too far. To right there. All right. So if I have the points, oh, I can't write on this. -1, -3, and 2, 1. -1, -3, and 2, 1. I'm going to jump back to this. -1, -3, and 2, 1. If I have those 2 points and I do the distance formula, I have to take the 2 x values and subtract them. Now I like to go this direction. 2 minus -1. And then whatever that answer is, I'm going to square it. And then I'm going to take y2 minus y1, which is 1 minus -3. I'm going to square that. So, minus a negative is plus a positive. So it's the square root of 3 squared plus a positive. 1 plus 3 is 4 squared. What's 3 squared? 9. 4 squared? 16, which is 9 plus 16 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. Most of the time, the distance formula doesn't work out to be whole numbers, but sometimes it does. So the distance formula, the distance here is 3 squared plus 4 squared in the square root. And it says That's the wrong answer there. I don't know what it's doing. It wasn't wide enough. So let me make this something different here. Let's go to there. Let's go down by there. Okay? So if this side is 5 and this side is 12, okay? 12 squared plus 5 squared is 169. Square root of that is 13. Okay? So that's distance formula. Most of the time, your distance formula will be a decimal. But every once in a while, we can find what's called a Pythagorean triple, where it's not a decimal. Okay, real life example of the distance formula. A pitcher throws a ball to a batter, who hits the ball to the shortstop. If the ball travels through a straight line between each, what's the total distance traveled by the ball? So the pitcher throws the ball to the batter. The batter hits the ball to the shortstop. Well, we're trying to make a straight line here, Mr. Rishbeck. Please make it a straight line. That's almost straight. Okay. So where is a pitcher on the grid? What's his ordered pair? 5, 5. Where's the batter at? 0, 0. So let's find that first distance. Well, it's the square root of x2 minus x1. Usually we go 0 minus 5, but in this case, it's easier to go 5 minus 0. Because to find distance is an absolute value. Distance is always positive. So we got to do absolute value stuff here. So, all right, turn for me. So we'll go 5 minus 0 squared plus 5 minus 0 squared. What's 5 squared? 25. And another 25 is the square root of 50, which is, I think, 7.1. You could check on your calculator if you wanted to. Okay? And now we're going to go from the batter, who is at 0, 0, to the shortstop, who is where? Where's the shortstop at? What's his ordered pair? 5, 10. So to find the distance there, we're going to go 5 minus 0 squared plus 10 minus 0 squared. Which is 5 squared, which is 25, 10 squared, which is 100, and that's the square root of 125, which I don't know off the top of my head, it's 11 point something, maybe 11.1, 11.2. Somebody, square root of 125. Is it 11.1 or 11.2? 11.2. So what's the total distance traveled by the ball in that situation? Well, we just add those two up, and we get 18.3. Okay? Then if we want to complicate things further, how far does the shortstop have to throw the ball to the first baseman? We could figure out that. But we're not going to right now. Okay? Okay, the last one we're going to do, we're going to find the length of KL. Well, to do this, we got to know where K is. What's the ordered pair for K? 1, 3. What's the ordered pair for L? 3, negative 2. Okay? So let's make this x1, y1, and this x2, y2. So the distance formula is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So my x2 is 3. My x1 is 1, and it's squared. My y2 is negative 2. My y1 is 3, and squared. What's 3 minus 1? So it's 2 squared. What's negative 2 minus 3? Negative 5 squared. When you square something, it'll become positive. So you got 4 plus 25, which is the square root of 29. The square root of 29 is 5 point what? About 5.4? 5.4. Okay. So that's what the basics of what we're doing today is the midpoint formula, which is an ordered pair. You add up the two x's, divide by 2, add up the two y's, divide by 2. And then the distance formula, where you plug numbers into this formula. Okay. So I'm going to put the assignment out on Google Classroom, and then you guys can work on it. I think we're just going to do one thing today. I have a feeling that doing just one thing today will be enough.